All right. Hi, this is Michael Serkis, and I am Global Creative Director of Foresight and Trends for Firmenich. I'm in the flavors division of Firmenich, and Firmenich, for those of you who don't know, is a global fragrance and flavor company based in Geneva, Switzerland, and I am located in their Princeton, New Jersey offices, where our flavors headquarters is. And I've been with Firmenich in the foresight and trends and creative marketing space for just over 20 years now. And I've been doing this pretty much the entire time. The name of the presentation is Present Tense. That doesn't really need a whole lot of explanation. It was designed to be that way. And this presentation will be one about awareness and in terms of the culture of from the streets and what is actually going on out there that you may be aware of today that you may not also be aware of the fact that it actually has been things that are ongoing for almost the last 5 to 10 years in a lot of cases. So let's get right to it because we have a short amount of time and a lot to get through. So uncertainty will remain, but so will opportunity. As it says, it says here, no one can predict the future, but we can only prepare for it. The New York Times had run a special section right during the midst of the pandemic, first wave there around March or April, where it says here, no one knows what's going to happen, with a guy in a mask, a guru in a mask, if you will, with a crystal ball. This is not about crystal balling. I mean, honestly, foresight in the context of predicting the future is really just being aware. And you can see to the right there, this has a little subcategory here about awareness. And what actually are you paying attention to? What are you seeing that's right in front of you that may otherwise be something you just sort of overlook or sort of just blow off or brush off as something that may not be as significant as something that you may not be connecting to or in the context of a greater picture of what else is actually really going on in the world. And in this presentation, we'll take you through a lot of those observations that I'm currently paying attention to in the context of the present tense. So here we go. The first thing we should get right off the bat here is the place where we are today, understanding all things pandemic and COVID-19 in a global situation. As it says in my job title, I am part of the Trends team. I was co-creator of the Trends tool for Firmenich back when I first joined the company in 2000, and it's been an internal resource, a tool, and a source of inspiration for innovation for over 20 years at this point. Our global trends team put this little scenario map together of basically kind of mapping out what is actually going on by our interpretation with 4 main bubbles, if you will, circulating around the COVID-19 virus. And essentiality, oneness, reset, survivalist. And you can see some of the bubbles that form around those things, and for larger circles to smaller circles in terms of representing the context of where they are in a observing change space. These are not necessarily trends. They're not necessarily, some may be signals. They may be just a way to bundle the observations we're making in a greater scheme of things. I bolded an outline around a couple of the topics that we'll be looking at today. In particular, to the right, you have oneness, and under oneness, under relocal, you have care, community, and everyday hero. And also underlining empathy, and to the left, under survivalist, underlining uprising. And these are a few of the signals that I've been paying attention to for the last 5 to 10 years, and things that I want to let you know that they are indeed a part of what's happening in 2020, but they are not new, and they certainly are not unique to the pandemic globally. So the key to staying relevant, as the past and future are present. As we like to say, that the future is actually bleeding into the present. And it's about picking up signals and analyzing them. It takes a professional, I guess you could say, a trained eye to be able to analyze signals. connect the dots, as it were. But we're constantly looking for evidence of these underlying causes and influences that precipitate the market's exponential growth. We're looking for those things that are going to really have a greater impact on the consumer at large. And for us, because we're a global company, our customers are global customers for the most part. We need to make sure that the trends that we actually do ultimately identify are in fact global. So world leaders and brand leaders, marketing managers, the like, anybody really in the innovation space, really need to be closely observing the changing behaviors, the attitudes and beliefs of consumers. And the way to do that is to really get out into the street, as we do. All the images I'm going to share with you today and the scenarios I've built around them are my own. And I encourage you to do similar situations if you're so inspired, because these topics that are that we're seeing globally, that when we see them in the subculture in different parts of the world, that's a pretty good signal that this could actually ultimately be a trend. And although this is not a trend presentation, it is pre-trends. It's about observing change. So we observe change from the street, as I said. You know, the streets are talking. I'll probably say that more than once today, and giving you a sense of, like, you know, that the subculture, the street culture, artists, graffiti artists, street artists use the streets as a means of communication. The messages, the colors, the context of what's being expressed in radical self-expression, if you will, is traceable. It's not unique to a specific neighborhood necessarily. More often than not, and I'm going to say over the last 20 years, it's probably 90% of the time, if not more, that these things are truly global messaging. That the messages you see on the streets in Brooklyn, New York, are the same as you see in Los Angeles, which you'll also see in Brazil or in other parts of Latin America, in Bangkok, in Tokyo, in Berlin, in London, and the like. These things are what we ultimately bundle together when we see these connectedness of the messaging and the imagery. We'll create these scenarios. These signals become scenarios. So in 2010, you saw pirates, and pirates became aliens, and aliens became natives. And then you saw a nomadic thing moving on, and then it became about roots. And roots moved into there was rebellion and reliance and self-reliance, tolerance. Brave became warrior, warrior became soldier, soldier has since become police, police has moved into hero. In some cases, there's activism going on. All of these things to the right of the red line, including the triangle, which basically puts you in this context of 2020 on the timeline, maybe even 2021 in this case. This is not new. This is not a slide I put together for this presentation. The material, the images, the words that I put together here as scenarios were already going on for the last 3, 4, in some cases even longer time frame. So, what's interesting is always, like I said, just to really see validation of how the future is bleeding into the present. And you can only do that by paying attention to what's currently going on the edge, in areas where the subculture is communicating as such. You track that information, and then you watch it move into the mass, and then the mass ultimately becomes something that people don't even realize was ever something that was ever part of the subculture. Here's some screenshots of some slides, some early slides between 2009 and 2012 that were part of my presentations at that time. And at that time, I had even unknowingly given them their own little scenario headings: revolution, transformation, freedom, individuality, belonging, even human spirit, with all the peace and love, and under belonging, it became about everyone and humanity. You look at these now and you say, my God, these are universal themes. That's case in point. But these are also things that were actually already going on for the last 10 years. They started in the beginning of the decade and have since now moved into the next decade at this point. In 2016, we watched this movement of what I was calling at the time in 2011, 12, 13, a future tense. We've now moved into a present tense. And in 2016, we started seeing images in the street for the first time around this idea of being awake, awakening. And what did it mean? And you can see, how I sort of progressed the images from what was happening in the upper left-hand corner, and they sort of move their way across the slide as they start making their way into a little bit more mass, where you see a fragrance, chocolate. It makes its way to the tea from Tazo, and then ultimately just this past spring to the cover of Vogue. And now here we are in 2020. So what happened? Are we awake? Is there an overdue awakening, as Time Magazine stated in June? I'd say it's an overdue subject matter, but it hasn't been something that hasn't been going on for the last 4 years. This awakening has been moving for quite some time, as I just shared with you. And now it's become something, as we said, more in the mass, still with the street art, a broader communication, but now it's making headlines. Now the awakening has taken on new meaning. It's gone global. It was always global, but now the messaging is becoming something in a greater context. In terms of the Black Lives Matter movement, which in its early beginnings of the Black Lives movement, Black Lives Matter movement, I should say, there was part of the Ebonics vernacular was the word woke, and woke comes from awake. And as you can see from the bullet points, it means awareness. It's about being passionate, determined, and human. It's being open to new ideas, open to the possibility of change. Woke has moved away from, if you will, the Ebonics vernacular, and now has become part of the culture. It's still a little bit. You'll see the word here and there show up in different articles or in the media. Maybe it's not being used accurately, but in a lot of cases, it still needs to be something that you're aware of, because it's an extension of the 2016 awakening, and it is still now being part of where we are today with being woke. And now being woke is again about awareness. Awareness in the infinite space, in the context of spirituality, might lend to one's belief around oneness and what oneness means as far as unity is concerned. But oneness is actually, for me, has become something that I'm trying to refer to as for 2021ness, what is coming, that a global view, if you will, of all of us together in the greater sense. Since 2016, right up through the present, I've been tracking the signal around everything and everyone. And everything and everyone has been pretty much everywhere at this point. We used to say it was a scenario based around consumer decision fatigue, and the fact that there's just so much choice that we're basically we've run out of demographics. It's no longer about millennials, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, baby boomers, and the like. Now we're talking just to everyone. And where are they? They're everywhere. And what are they buying? And what are they interested in? They're interested in everything and everywhere. It's just become that. The mass has become massive. And so much so that now, and we've moved into the 2020 scenario, and everything, everyone, and everywhere has just become, we're all in this together. And it became basically a mega catchphrase for the solidarity of all things around the pandemic. But the fact of the matter is, as I've shown you, that these are areas where the future has been bleeding into the present, and now here we are in the present, and the phrase of the idea that we are in this together is just the greater good of all things, about everyone, everywhere, with everything. And now I'm actually seeing a new scenario around this. I'm watching, now we've gone from everything, everyone, everywhere to together, and now we're actually moving into another space, which I'm seeing building even greater around community. So you can see there's a natural progression to that thinking, and how that actually will transpire from the space that it was around just togetherness, but now it's about community, and the essence of credibility is community. When it comes to brands, brands must once again they have to appeal to the tribes of people, the culture, who are not on the hunt for just product, but these are consumers who are spectators in search of inspiration and community. There's a belonging sense of community that needs to be understood. And again, from my earlier presentation slides around belonging is now become a part of community. Again, these are scenarios. What the trend is extrapolated from that needs to be derived in terms of an inspiration space that you would use for innovation when you're talking about a specific category or a brand or what have you. So this building of communities is about a human connection. We're trying to create emotional connections for the consumer. We're making lasting impressions in the minds of our consumers, connecting with the mind and the heart, with our products, with our ideas, with what it is we're communicating. This is still trying to stay relevant in this. It's about the lifestyle related factors, but it's only as good as how they are in the human connection. Human has become another mega scenario for me. I mean, I'm seeing this idea of, humanity, human-centric since 2016, just absolutely blowing up all over the place from all different contexts. You never saw it this way in the amount of deliverable messaging around being human. You kind of take it for granted that center box about confirming humanity is something that we do every time we log into something new in the computer. What do? You click that little box that says, I am not a robot. But it also says that I am not an animal. I am not a robot. I am not an animal. I am human. And they want to, before they subscribe you, we need to confirm you are a human. And this is quite an interesting state of where we are today. Huh? So much so that now today here we are with the Human Being Initiative from Pantone and street culture brand Fuzzed Up Bear, some Fringe Festival theater, some street fashion, t-shirts, Legalize Humanity, and the like. So this is me bundling it around the idea of humanism. More than ever, people want to find those human connections and have a sense of purpose. It's about being uniquely human. It's intelligence combined with cognitive and sensory abilities. It's ingenuity, it's empathy, it's judgment, and I will even add goodness to that as well. Goodness, 2020, the pandemic, has turned the everyday heroes into the unsung heroes of the today, whether they're medical workers, pharmacists, police officers, firefighters, teachers and grocers, the like. We're all very familiar with the messaging around who is a hero, and how much that has become so prevalent in this context. But did you also know that it's been going on in all areas from since all the way since 2017, if not greater? And same with the police. This is messaging that's been going on for the last 4 or 5 years now. And of course, with the pendulum swing of all things trends, we've moved into activism. Again, another cover for Vogue for this for the fall. I've now been accurately forecasting the covers of Vogue, if you will, both for the spring and the fall. Last one was Awakening. Now we're in Activism. And most of these messages, these are not militant messages. These are messages for bras, tennis rackets, laundry, and food and beverage and the like. So ultimately, this is about the core issue of humanity. We want to be where everybody else is. We want to belong. We want to gossip. Today, community is everything. And I can't stress that enough. It's again about this human connection, connections that are inevitable, and the signals are constant. If you're paying attention, if you're really looking for them, you will see that this is a place where this information is available to everybody. It's really just a matter of what your awareness level is. People don't want top-down information anymore. They don't want to know about it from what they're seeing, doing, wearing, or eating. They'd rather hear it from their friends and family, and to make those connections to really reach their hearts and minds. So in closing, I'll leave you with a quote from my marketing guru, Seth Godin. And if you see the world isn't helping you make the changes you seek to make, well, consider seeing the world differently. And I hope this presentation opened your eyes to some of the things that are going on out there, and to understand that what you may see in the present, as it relates to what you may think is actually impacting the future, has actually been going on for quite some time. And what else is out there where you can identify opportunities to see where the future might be bleeding into the present. So thank you for your time today, and I'm going to stick around for some questions for the next 5 minutes. Thank you.